week we're going to be talking about the government of Mexico. So with me today I have Sam, and she's a representative of the Mexican government, and she's going to be telling us a little bit about how the government there works. So, hey Sam.
Hey Priya, thanks for having me.
No problem, we're glad to have you. So let's get into my first question. My first question is, what kind of government does Mexico have, and who's the leader?
Mexico has a federal republic type of government, and the current president is Enrique Peña Nieto.
Oh, cool. So how is the president elected? I imagine it's much different than in the U.S.
The president's elected by popular vote, and he goes for a single 6-year term, and he's also considered the chief of state and the head of government. And once he's elected, he can't run for re-election.
Oh, well, that is kind of different, because in the U.S., the president can be in office for 2 4-year terms. So, anyway, my next question is, what is the basis of the government? Like, how does the government get its power?
The basis of the government is the Constitution, and it provides a governmental blueprint for the 31 United Mexican States, as well as the federal district. And the Constitution describes the different responsibilities and powers that all 3 branches of the government have, and also deal with how the federal government and the state government interact with each other.
Well, it's kind of similar like in the U.S. So I know you've mentioned the president and the executive branch. What are the other branches of government, and how do they work?
Besides the executive branch, there's also the legislative and the judicial branch as well. And then when you deal with the legislative branch, it's a bicameral Congress, which consists of the Senate and the Chamber of Deputies. And people from both houses of the legislative are elected by the majority vote or proportional representation. And these 2 houses are allowed to pass laws, approve the budget, enact war, and also approve presidential appointments as well.
Oh, well, I heard you mention something about a Chamber of Deputies. What's that?
Well, they have special legislative powers in dealing with, like, finance matters related to war, public education, and health.
Cool. So, tell me a little about the judicial system.
So, well, first thing you need to know is that there's an independent federal and state court system as well, and they're headed by the Supreme Court, but technically there's a total of 11 justices, and in the Supreme Court you have to be elected by the president first, and then you can be approved by the Senate.
Cool. So, alright, since we're talking, let's move into a little bit about voting. So tell me about that.
In Mexico, voting is compulsory, and anybody over the age of 18 is allowed to vote. All you have to do is get a voter registration card first, and though voting is compulsory, it's not exactly enforced.
Oh, that's kind of similar like in the U.S., like anyone over 18 is allowed to vote. So, since we're talking about voting in elections, tell me a little bit about the party system. How's that?
It's a multi-party system, and the major parties, for some examples, are the National Action Party, the Institutional Revolutionary Party, and the Democratic Revolutionary Party as well.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. So, I guess that's all we really have time for today. Thanks, Sam, for telling us a little bit about the government of Mexico, and tune in next week for another episode of Government Around the Globe.